Okay. Shalom. Good evening, everybody. Baruch Hashem is to make a scene today on Megillah. We're 12 blot into Makkos on Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph, about halfway down. The Mishnah said, what are we holding? Okay, the Mishnah said that just like the city itself is kailat, so too the tchum of the city is kailat. In fact, the Gemara of Mini the Yashav Ba, we learn out the pasuk that he should live in the city. We learn out Ba he should live in the city and not in the tchum. Rabbi like Hasha kan liklait kan lidar. The isser the tzivay on the pasuk is to live in the city. He should not live in the tchum, but to be kailat, the tchum also is kailat. It's not a stira. The Mishnah says that you cannot make a different Mishnah says you cannot make the migrash of the city into a sada or the sada of the city into a migrash. Like migrash migrash. You cannot make the ear into a migrash and the migrash. The migrash is the part of the city that has to be left undeveloped. So again, from that mission, I know that you can't live in the tchum because that's changing the zoning of the migrash, of the buffer between cities. So you don't need to tell me that you can't live there from that. So the Gemara says it comes to tell me that if I live underneath the ground, that's not being over. That's not being over the issue of changing I think the word is topography of the migrash. And the usage, because I'm underneath the ground. So underneath the ground I'm not allowed to live there from the pasuk b'yashiv ba. But again, it's still kailat because the tchum is kailat and all the surrounding area, the tchum is kailat. So the Gemara writes, "Reitzeach sheyatzel l'chutz l'tchum, tarabanon v'ratzach goyel adam es haretzeach." So we learn. So that's what the pasuk says. V'ratzach es hagoyel adam es haretzeach. So we learn out mitzvah b'yad goyel adam. There's a mitzvah for the goyel adam. In goyel adam, if there's no goyel adam, it's just b'yad kol adam. Divrei Rabbi Yossi. This is Divrei Rabbi Yossi. So Rabbi Yossi holds that it misses anyone. Now, the word in goyel adam is allowed to happen because anyone who's Yerush is a goyel adam, and there's no such thing as a Jew that doesn't have a Yerush. Even a ger, if he has children, is a yerush. Or the Gemara's classic example of someone who doesn't have any yerushim is a ger, which is the only one that it's possible to not have yerushim. But almost any other person that was born into Klal Yisrael has yerushim by default because it always just keeps on going back up the chain. So even if your father didn't have any brothers, his father had brothers, and it just goes again. The order of yerushim is sons, father, and then brothers. So if the father is dead and he doesn't have any brothers, then it goes up one generation and it keeps on going until someone has to still be, and then that brother's kids. So it's EF not to have Yarshim. So there's no such thing as Ein Goyel Adam. So what does that mean over here? It means that he's not around or he's not willing to do it or whatever it is. So basically holds that anyone could step in and fill these shoes. So it's not a mitzvah for the Goyel Adam. He's allowed to. And everyone else who steps in and takes this opportunity to kill somebody, he's chayiv. He's chayiv ben afshri. He's chayiv out killing. My time. They say clearly miksiv ratzach. Does it say that he was ratzach? It says v'ratzach, and he should kill. Rabbi Yossi is learning v'ratzach that it's a tzivay that the Torah says he should kill. Rabbi Kiva miksiv yirtzach. Does it say yirtzach? He should kill. It says v'ratzach, and he did kill. Amar Marzutra bar Tovia Amar Rav Retzeach sheyatza chutz tchum umatza goyel adam. And if a guy walks out of the city and the goyel adam finds him, v'hargo nerag alav, and he finds him, then the goyel adam is chayiv misa. But the Gemara, come on, like Rabbi Yossi, like Rabbi Kiva, because Rabbi Kiva says that it's a rishus, but over here Rav Marzutra is saying that it's that the goyel adam is chayiv misa for killing the Hari B'Shaygig. And the Gemara, who the Amar ki haytana, the Tanya v'laza Omer ad amdu l'pnei ha'eda l'mishpat. The pasuk says that the pasuk says that amdu l'pnei that he shouldn't be killed until he stands judgment in front of the mishpat. My time with Omer the fishnim of v'ratzach goyel ha'adam. Because it says the goyel adam is allowed to kill the ritzayach. I might think that he can kill him as soon as the death happens, as soon as Ruvain kills Shimon b'Shaygig. Shimon's Yarshim can right away step in and kill Ruvain. Talmud Leimer ad lemishpat, and he has to stand judgment. Talmud Leimer ad amda eid lemishpat. So that's what Rabbi Lazar says, that he has to stand judgment. Now Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Kiva, again, they don't say specifically that he doesn't have to go to judgment, but because they seem to say their halacha in a more open-ended way, the Gemara is assuming and understanding that they are not makbid, that he should. Oh, that's what that is. They're not makbid that they should have to wait for the Amida B'din. What do they do with this pasuk? They have to actually, if the entire bezdin witnesses a murder, they are not kosher for dayanas, they are kosher for edus, and they can go be made in this other to another bezdin, but the guy must stand trial in another. He must be judged by other judges. Im yatsa yatsa. It says, the pasuk says im yatsa yatsa etzeyach. So we learn out ainly elabemezid the shagig minayin. So let's say the guy walks out of the Ari Miklat on purpose. He says he has a wedding, he can't miss his chasana, he's going to go to the chasana. And the guy Adam sees him and he kills him by the shmur. So that's bemezid. The guy, not the killing bemezid, that's also bemezid, but he left bemezid. Let's say he's walking his dog, he spaced out, listening to his music, and he just walked out of the guy. He just walked out of the tchum, and the guy's sitting there waiting for him, and he kills him. And how do you know that he's not? How do you know that he's allowed to? He's allowed to be killed. The God Adam is allowed to kill the Hari B'Shagig, afilu if he leaves B'Shagig. Any sort of leaving, and Yatsi Yatsi, the Torah is saying, no matter how he leaves, why he leaves, he is mechuyev. He's no longer under the protection of the Ari Miklat, and it's open hunting season. And Tanya b'mezid nerag B'Shagig Gaila. We learned in the Brayse it says that b'mezid he's nerag, and B'Shagig he goes out. B'Shagig he does B'Shagig he goes back to Galus. In other words, he goes back to the city that he's supposed to be in. Like Hasha Hakamanda Amar Aminan Devatayra Kalashim B'nei Adam Hadamanda Amar Le'Aminan Devatayra Kalashim B'nei Adam. It's a machlekes if apparently people used to double talk. They used to say things in a repetitive fashion, and that is called Lashim B'nei Adam. So Yatsa, some according to one mahalach of reading into the Torah's diktuk, you are medayik in Yatsa, and then I would learn out from there. But according to my number, it says that you're not that Lashon Torah b'nei Adam nichtav Lashon b'nei Adam dibur Torah Lashon b'nei Adam. That's then you're not medayik from Yatsa, and therefore, if he goes out b'shagig, you would not be liable, and you would not be allowed to kill him. Amar Abaya, Mistabek man Amar dibur Torah Lashon b'nei Adam. Why? It doesn't make sense, says Abai, it's very Shema that his original killing, B'Shoigeg, got him to Galus. Now he walks out B'Shoigeg and he's chayiv to die. It's not so mistava. So Matchilas b'mezid nerag B'Shoigeg Gaila, Av Soif b'mezid nerag B'Shoigeg Gaila. That's Abai's svar. That the end, this part of his sentencing shouldn't be worse. His punishment shouldn't be worse than the original verdict. The original verdict is okay. He did something b'shagig, so he goes to galus. And over here, he walks out b'shagig. He gets killed. It doesn't make sense. That's what Abai says. Tani Chada. We learned one Mishnah. Av shaharag, a father that kills, obviously his son. Otherwise, we wouldn't refer to him as father. B'noi nasa loy goyal. His son becomes a goyal hadam. B'tanya idach ein b'noi nasa loy goyal hadam. There's a son does not become a Gadam. Again, so somebody kills one of their sons, B'Shaygeg, the other brothers can step in and kill the father. So let's say that this is machlekes, because Rabbi Yossi, we just learned, says that it's a mitzvah to kill it's a mitzvah to go down to kill the Harg B'Shaygeg. So in that case, you would say, okay, he's allowed to kill his father. That he has a mitzvah to do something, and the fact that it's not kibbutz of aim, or the fact that you're not allowed to hit your father is overridden. And Rabbi Kiva says, no, it's only Rishus the Torah gave you. So for Rishus, you can't go hit your father, you can't kill your father. And so the Gemara, but this for the Gemara, that doesn't make sense. But Tisra, Bein Madam Mitzvah, Bein Madam Rishus. Either way, even according to the base that says that it's a mitzvah. Mishari is, are you allowed to do a mitzvah, even if you have a chiyuv to do it? How do you have a right to hit your father? It shouldn't override that. For all these scenarios referring to mitzvahs bezdin, Eina ben nasa shliach la'aviv. La'akaisai kalasai. To hit his father or to curse him, it doesn't mean there's no mitzvah of bezdin to curse somebody, but to put him in a nidah would be considered cursing him. That's what it's referring to. So a person should not get up and give a kokayra against his own father. Let someone else do it. To hit him, to give him makkos, find another guy, import someone else from out of town. If you can't find someone else who knows how to hold a whip. Chutz, the Gemara says, memisas, memesis. Why? Shari amar Torah loisachmo v'loisachas. You should not have any rachmanis on him. You should not help him at all. There's a lot of other interesting halachas. Masechet Sanhedrin goes through them. Different protocols that we have by mesis. Someone who convinces other people to do avodah zarah is a much more common in a lot of different ways. They don't need a sra, or you're allowed to trick them. The Edom are allowed to, like, the only time you'll do a wiretap in halacha is by a mesis. If you find somebody, you're not allowed. Bezdin will not hire somebody to go find out if someone is Mechal Shabbos, but by a mesis they'll do entrapment. But you have kama halachas the whole protocol when it comes to being done a mesis, and this is one of them, that a son is allowed to hit his own father if his father is a mesis. The point of bringing this out is that even Rabbi Yossi, who holds it to mitzvah, would not hold the chayra that you're allowed to kill or even hit your own father just because it's a mitzvah. So how do we miyashav these two mishnahs? It says, both of them says benai, but sometimes benai is referred to as benai, but it does not mean a son mamish. Again, the mishnah that says that the son is not allowed to kill, that's talking about the son mamish, and this son that says that the son is allowed to kill, it's talking about a grandson. If a tree was standing inside the tchum of the Ari Miklat, so it is maklet the noifa, and its branches and his branches are leaning into outside the tchum, or the hapach. So our Mishnah says very clearly that how are we down a tree if it's inside Ari Miklat or if it's not? You look at the branches, where the branches are, that's where the tree is. The Gemara is going to analyze this and we're going to tweak it just a drop. I'm going to change it all. This is talking about Meiser in Yerushalayim, that you have to eat Meiser, Sheni, and that the Rai L'chayr it's also referring to in Yerushalayim. So let's say there's a tree that's also twisted and it goes half in Yerushalayim, half out of Yerushalayim. What do you do in such a tree? Are you allowed to eat Meiser in the tree? There's also another halacha which we're going to mention, that in Yerushalayim you're not allowed to be paid the Meiser Sheni. So if you want to be paid the Meiser Sheni, it has to be nifta before you walk into Yerushalayim. Then you can eat it in Yerushalayim, or you could eat it in Yerushalayim. But if you want to eat it, it has to be nifta, and it has to be nifta outside Yerushalayim. Again, if you have a bunch of apples and you want to eat them, the Meiser Sheni apples, you could either be paid to them over here and eat them over here, or you could walk them to Eretz Yisrael, Yerushalayim, and eat them in Eretz Yisrael. And eat them in Yerushalayim. You cannot be paid to them in Yerushalayim. Once in Yerushalayim, you have to eat the actual apples, and you cannot eat them without being paid to them outside Yerushalayim. And that's going to come into effect. We're going to have to know that in order to understand the Gemara in a second. V'ramini, for the Gemara, we have a brayse ilan shahaya ayim v'nait lachutz ayim b'fnim v'nait lachutz ayim v'chutz v'nait lefnim mikeneged achayma v'lefnim kilefnim mikeneged achayma lachutz kilachutz. Wherever on the tree you are, if that part of the tree is inside the walls of the Yerushalayim, then you are considered Yerushalayim. If it's outside the Yerushalayim, it's outside. It doesn't go after the knife. It doesn't go after any other part of the tree. Whichever part, you have a whole squiggly tree that goes like this. Depending on which side, which place on the trunk you are, that's where you are. Wherever, just imagine, draw a line from where you're sitting straight down to the floor. If you're on this side of the wall, if you're inside the wall, you are in Yerushalayim l'chol davar, and if you're outside the wall, you're outside the Yerushalayim. So my Maisa Ari Miklat Karamis. You asked me a kasha from Maisa Sheni to Ari Miklat. The whole separate the guidelines that govern these halachas are completely different. The whole Yisod is different. Meiser b'chayma tala. The whole Meiser is a very black and white halacha. It's inside the wall or outside the wall. So wherever you are, that's where you are, and finished. But tala rachmana. Ari miklat b'dira tala rachmana. The whole point of Ari miklat is you should live there. So if you v'noifai misadle be'ikroi loy misadle, you cannot live on a trunk because there's no shade, there's no protection, there's nowhere to sit. There's just you're sitting on a trunk. There's nothing there. In the tree, in the branches, you could make a tree house. You could set yourself up a little bit of a campment. Now it's not the Ritz, but it's something that you can. It's something you can deal with. It's able to be livable. So that's why by Ari Miklat it goes after the branches. Okay, so the Gemara says you're right. That's not a good question. But I'm going to ask you two brises that seemingly contradict each other. One, they're both in Meiser. The Tanya or the Tan really Yerushalayim halach achar knife, Ari Miklat halach achar knife. In Yerushalayim you go after the knife, and in Ari Miklat you go after the knife. So again, we have a Mishnah now that says that you go after the knife even by Meiser. And the other Mishnah we had goes wherever you are in the tree. And the Gemara Amrav Kahana like Kasha Harav Yehuda Harabanan. This is Makkos Daf, which we're going to explore in a second, and we're going to say that the Mishnah that says that the knife, that knife is Rabbi Yehuda, and the Mishnah that says that the walls goes wherever you are, inside or outside, that's the Rabbanan. The Tanya. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda Amar b'mara haylach achar pischa be'ilan haylach achar naifai. So Rabbi Yehuda says that the Elon goes at that a cave. He has this similar shayla. Let's say a cave opens up in Yerushalayim and then continues outside Yerushalayim. So if you walk into the tunnel, are you allowed to eat ma'aser sheni there? Are you allowed to be paid ma'aser sheni? What do you do? So Rabbi Yehuda says wherever the psicha of the cave is, even if you walk 30 minutes into Chutz Yerushalayim, you are still considered in Yerushalayim for all these purposes. And he says the same thing Achar Knife, which we had before. Third thing like this: Eima the Shamet the Rabbi Yehuda Gabe Meiser. Rabbi Yehuda said his halacha Gabe Meiser. Right? This mission that we just said, this mission we just said. B'Shlach Achar Knife, B'Ari Miklat. Yeah, okay. So again, Rabbi Yehuda the Tanya Rabbi Yehuda oh, very good. 1 second. Okay, so this Bryce is unauthored, right? Fine. We want to say this following. So right, okay. We want to say that Bryce just says that Ari Miklat and Yerushalayim go after the knife. We want to label that Rabbi Yehuda. And again, our mission also that says we Basar Achar but also Rabbi Yehuda, incidentally. But we want to bring which Rabbi Yehuda is this? Rabbi Yehuda says the Mara Hoylech Achar Pesach Elon Hoylech Achar knife. Now that Brisa that we just quoted that has Rabbi Yehuda's name attached to it, that he only said in Meiser. So the Gemara says as Eimer the Shamet Leila Rabbi Yehuda Gabe Meiser Lechumra. He said, maybe he only said the Chumrah. Now, Taisus explains who said. It doesn't say that he only says the Chumrah. He says it's Tam. Because we don't want to make such a big machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan. So if we say that he only means the Chumrah, it's less than machlekes, it's more mistabed that that's what he meant. That's what the Gemara's understanding Rabbi Yehuda Shita. The Bryce from Yehuda. No, and you can't say that it's more than that. Why? So to explain what's going on. Rabbi Yehuda got b'maisa l'chumrah. So because beside we just said those two halachas that we explained in the beginning. Either way, whether I'm in Yerushalayim or outside Yerushalayim, there's still a chumrah. So we're gonna we'll do the Gemara inside. We'll explain it line by line. If I go basar noifai to go inside Yerushalayim, then what's the chumrah? The chumrah is that I can't be paid the ma'aser sheni, because we said you cannot be paid the ma'aser sheni in Yerushalayim. So there's a chumrah to go outside Yerushalayim because you can't eat. You can't eat without being paid. So there's a chumrah either way. So it could be he's just saying hakol haylech achar knife to be machmer. Ella gabi ari miklat bishloim ikroi b'chutz b'noifa b'fnim ki heichi de b'noifa loy matzi katale b'ikroi nami loy matzi katale, to be machmer and say hadech achar a knife from outside to inside. The knife is inside, so then you could say you can't kill him even though he's technically outside the tchum because you're being machmer on the goy adam, right? And that's the chumrah again. If the ikr is outside and this guy's chilling on the trunk, and all the branches are inside the Ari Mikla, we're saying l'chumra go basar knife, and you cannot kill him because he's considered inside. El ikr b'fnim v'nayfa b'chutz, if the ikr is in the Ari Mikla, and the branches go afterwards, ki heichi de b'nayfa matzil katalei be'ikar nami matzil katalei. He's inside the Ari Mikla. How are you going to be mako basar knife? In other words, I don't know that Rabbi Yehuda would hold this. So when you say in our Mishnah, hakol halach achar knife, that's a huge kula in some cases, and you're going to be allowed to kill somebody who's technically inside the tchum of the Ari Mikla. Amar Rabba the ikroi the kuli ama lepligi. Rabbi Yehuda, no one argues that if he's on the ikr, if he's on the trunk that's inside, he's not allowed to be killed. Why? Because Rabbi Yehuda, in other words, that Mishnah is not saying that he'd be allowed to kill. Our Mishnah that says is not talking about that he's on the trunk, because then Rabbi Yehuda would hold that we only said and who says that you get to call him, you get to label him outside the tchum just because we're going after the knife. Everyone holds that if he's in the knife, but he's able to be, you could shoot him with arrows or throw stones at him, where today you have much better options, right? So then everyone holds you're allowed to kill him because he's technically outside. Ki pligi b'mahavi ikre deraga. Draga the knife fight. What does that mean? That he's going to use the knife. He can't reach him with stones. He doesn't have a good arm. He's going to climb on the knife on the ikr, which is inside the tchum, to climb and go chase him up the tree, which is outside the tchum. So Rabbi Yehuda says he says that the tree is considered and therefore I would not be allowed to use the tree to reach him. Let me just double check. That's yeah. Yeah, I think that Rabbi Yehuda says that if you're going after the knife, then you cannot use the tree. Or maybe it's the other way around. Rabbi Yehuda would say that if it goes after a knife, then you could use. Rabbi Yehuda said you could do it. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's Rabbi Yehuda says that. I have to double check that. I think Rabbi Yehuda would not allow him to climb up, because he's saying that the tree, Rabbi Yehuda would allow him to climb up. But the Rabbanan say no, the ikr is standing in the tchum, you can't go into the tchum. You can't go into the miklat. Rashi presents a third way to be miyasha the stira. My achar knife, achar knife. He goes, even achar knife, that as long as what's the as long as even achar knife. In other words, of course, if the ikr is in the tchum, you can't kill him. But even if just the knife is in the tchum, you still can't kill him. So it's also going in the chumrah, which would fit to Rabbi Yehuda that we had in the brisa. If this guy's mamish, he kills in his hometown, and then he gets niglat. Then he has to run to Galus to the Ari Miklat, and then he kills again. Now he's not allowed to leave the city because he has the Issa to leave the city. So what are you going to do? He has to go from out of his town and go to another town, go to another city, go to another neighborhood in a city. Well, Ben Levi goyla me'ir le'ir. Now Ben Levi is allowed to. Ben Levi, what does that mean? Ben Levi is allowed to. Ben Levi is anybody who lives there full time, and it didn't end up there because of the shogeg killing. That's where he lives. So he's allowed to live because he's allowed to leave because he was never sent to as gullus. So if he kills someone, he can run to another city. The mile of running to another city is that if he goes from shchuna to shchuna, he has to stay in the city he has to stay in the city that either he has to stay in that city it's a machlokes, he has to stay in that city that he runs to, or he just can never go back to his original city. But either way, it could be he has more options if he moves to a different city. Tana Rabbanan. It says in the Baz V'samti l'cha Malkim. Hakadosh Baruch Hu is talking to Moshe Rabbeinu when he says something Malkim. V'samti l'cha b'chayecha. It means that even in his lifetime, referring to the 3 cities that he set up, Evar Yadeh, Malkim Mimkaimcha. The word Malkim is referring to the Mimkaimcha. Asher Yonas Shama Melamed Shahayu Yisrael Megalin B'Midbar Lehechem Megalin. Why was it someone killed in the Midbar b'Shageg? They would run L'Machana Levia. Mekanam Ben Levi Shaharag. That's how you know that if Ben Levi Shaharag Goyla Meplach Leplach. If he goes back to his own city, then he another neighbor in his own city is also good. He was already living there, and it's still koiled for him. So that's how you know that Ben Levi is allowed to stay in his own city, because again, the whole the whole Machana Levia was koiled in times of the Midbar. So where would a Levi run? Obviously, a Levi had to run back to Shevet Levi, but in another Machana Levia, but in another area. But again, this thing that the Mishnah says that Ben Levi Goyla Me'ir L'ir is not Dafka; he's allowed to. So the Mishnah writes, "Kiyetze b'Yitzech shegoyla L'ir L'ir Miklat v'Rotzu Anshei L'ir L'Chabdai." So this Kiyetze is discussed. What shayches Kiyetze? How does this? The fact that he has to. How is this talking about his covenant? How is it referencing? How does that playing off the previous Mishnah? So they say it's because the whole point of Golus is to be machniya him. So over here also that when they want to give him covenant, he has to tell them, "I'm a murderer." So if the guy just moves in and they want to, I don't know what it means to give him covenant. They give him Galili, he has to make an announcement in shul. I'm not sure. I don't know what the love. Maybe they only have to give him a position in shul. I looked. I didn't see anything that they said. So we're gonna just leave it open-ended for now. I'm a murderer. If they say Afal Pikain, even though we still want to be mechaved you, he's allowed to be mechaved shenemar that he doesn't have to keep on repeating himself and pushing them away. He has to say it once, but he has to say it, and then he could accept the kibbutz. Mylin, how you say the Mishnah says another independent, seemingly completely unrelated halacha. Mylin, how you schar l'levim. The guy has to pay rent. He sent to Galus. He has to live somewhere. He has to pay rent to the levim. They did not have to pay rent. The chayzer l'shara, and if he goes out, when the kohen gadol dies, then he gets reinstated into any positions that he held in his old community. Shahayu by. The chayzer l'shara shahayu by. He cannot demand a position according to the mayor, even if someone else took him over as the gabbai, whatever positions he held. Then you still have to. He still gets the position back. So the machlokes is only in the 6 original Ari Miklat that the Torah mentions specifically. The Ma'asav Lechem Leklita U'Ma'asav Lechem Lechot Tzarchem. Rabbi Yehuda that says that they do have to pay rent. He says it's Lechem. What does that mean for you? It's not your city. You can do whatever you want. It's your city that it's credit for you. And Rabbi Meir that says you don't have to pay rent. He says, no, it's lechem for all your needs. Now, the even Rameir does not mean that it's lechem, the gavi, whole Klaisel, that everyone can just move in and do whatever they want. The is only referring to a Hari B'Shagig, but that's the machlekes between Yehuda and Rameir, how to learn the word lechem. Of course, by the sheish, the original sheish, of course, l'chol tzarchechem. Rava hold that there's no machlekes the gabi the 6 original miklat, and nobody holds that they pay rent. Ella tzachechem mashma. Ella amarava machlekes ba'arban v'shtayim. There's 42 additional cities that were the cities of the Levium that were also maklet. And those cities, the question is, do you pay rent or not? So the Marasov Va'aleim Titnu Kihanoch Leklita. It says Va'aleim Titnu. The Torah mentioned that we're going to give you all these cities. Also, says we're referencing the original cities. So Rabbi Yehuda holds that it's like those cities in the way that they're koilet. Marasov Va'aleim Titnu Kihanoch Ma'hanach Lechotzeichem Avhani Nami Lechotzeichem. He says the whole thing is Rameir's copy paste the whole thing from the 6 cities to the 42 cities, and you don't pay rent even by the 42 cities. But of course, the original 6 they were meant for Klal Yisrael b'chinam, and you do not have to pay rent over there. It says by a of Evet Ivri. Then he goes back to his family. That's the pasuk. So we dash in his house. The mishpachta who shav the inishav the mashach ziku avaisav. You go return to your family, but you don't get your original status. Rabbi Yehuda. Now we're going to make a deal. We're going to make a gzei shava from. But we're handling Abed. So the Gemara is going to bring it into a gaila in a minute. Rabbi Yehuda. May Aimer avu shav the mashach ziku avaisav. Just and it says the end of the pasuk the same way like your father's. You actually know that any position that you have that you actually from your father. So again, this is to make a shava to a goyla. Kedetanya Yoshev Aritzech Eretz Achuzas LaAretz LaEretz Achuzas who shav in a shav LaMasha Hechziku Avaisav. Different Meir. I'm sorry, this is very Yehuda Meir. I'm Afshu shav LaMasha Hechziku Avaisav Gama Shiva Shiva Mehasam. They both learn Shiva Shiva. The question is what they're learning from. So Meir says copy paste from Eved Ivri, and he holds by Eved Ivri. He darshans Eved Ivri that he gets everything, that he gets returned to his original stature. And Rabbi Yehuda also learns from Rabbi Shiva, but he learns from that just like Eved Ivri, does not get his original status. So too, a Gaila does not get his original status. Hadan Allah Elu Hein Hagailan Hadan Allah Elu Hagailan. We will, Be'ez Hashem, start the third and final parak. Matzah Shabbos. That is the plan. Okay, Shkar, thank you so much.